So how about we start with who the fuck are you, and then who the hell am I, and then get cracking. Today, I guess we're gonna attempt the impossible, which is create a 301 framework on how the hell startups work and how does that relate to go-to-market in practice. The coolest part about all of this is that we are in a old hospital building right now. Oh, man, you just wait. I'm gonna take you to the tunnels later.
Okay.
If you make it out alive.
This might be the last video. This might be the last I'm ever seen, so great.
You don't know this yet, but this is blackmail material. Okay, cool. So let's talk some shit.
We just have to assume nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about my product. Nobody cares about anything. The default state is indifference. Demand is a way of saying, in what situation, or in your words, scenario, is a person not indifferent? Would they be, instead of, they would generally be weird to buy our product? Great.
Don't have to be a sleazy salesperson anymore.
My rough estimate is that 90% of a sales call is wasted time. Our startup just exists to find people who have demand, deliver supply, so that we generate a case study as a result. We just want to repeat a single case study. A startup is essentially a factory, literally just focus on demand. If you figure out demand, demand can generate everything else about your business. If you don't focus on demand, everything will be confusing.
What's up, dude?
Well, it's good to be here.
Where are you?
I'm in Helsinki, I think.
And what the hell are you doing here?
I am giving a talk at Slush, which is a conference here.
Are you at Slush right now?
I am not at Slush.
So you fly all the way over here and you skip school to hang out with me?
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, what else?
What else is there to do? Well, plenty of things to do.
Yes, this and sauna.
But since you are here and since you have graciously allowed for me to hijack you for a couple of hours,
let's do it.
It is great to have you, and I'm excited to talk about the things we anyway talk about on our LinkedIn DMs and Zoom calls, and hopefully produce something useful. So how about we start with who the fuck are you, and then who the hell am I, and then get cracking.
Yeah, sure. So I am Rob Snyder. I focus on 0 to 1 in startups. I have been a founder multiple times. I'm still a bootstrapped founder now. I've done venture in the past, now bootstrapped, and I help a ton of startups through the 0 to 1 stage, 0 to $1 million ARR, done up to 0 to kind of 20 million is kind of what I've seen so far, and I help out at Harvard, MIT, a bunch of other places as well.
So what does that mean? What does helping at 0 to 1 mean?
I come in as an advisor for a lot of startups when they're at the stage where they're kind of getting conflicting market signals or things aren't quite working, and I help startups kind of figure out who are we selling to, why do they buy, what do they want to buy, and how do we start to get some repeatability so we can start doing that as opposed to doing a lot of that.
So if I buy your services, you're going to come in and tell me what I'm doing wrong in my sales calls and in my messaging?
Yeah, I usually listen to a bunch of sales calls. And
very cool.
So yeah.
Oh, that sounds slightly similar to my job.
Yeah.
I'm Richard. I am what's known as a go-to-market engineer, and essentially my job is to replicate the conditions of success in go-to-market. What that usually translates to is understanding what's going wrong in the go-to-market process, like anywhere from, are we talking to the right people? Are we even having conversations? Is anything moving? And then building semi-automated systems around it. Yeah. But obviously always keeping the actual conversation part human.
Yes.
Because I don't know about you, but I've received a fair amount of very personalized AI messages trying to, I don't even know what the fuck they're selling me, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, I got messages about, hey, have you, I see you're at Harvard Innovation Labs. Have you all considered automated outbound? Like, for what? So, yeah. I mean, there's like ways in which it's helpful and then ways in which it's not.
I mean, it would probably be pretty easy case you just say, hi, I'm from Harvard. Want to talk?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but like people reaching out to me as a an employee, fellow thing at Harvard. So they're like, pitching all random sorts of services that I don't think Harvard Innovation Labs would ever buy. So,
well, not you or not anyone on your team, I guess.
No, probably not. Yeah.
But hey, today I guess we're gonna attempt the impossible, which is create a 301 framework on how the hell startups work and how does that relate to go-to-market in practice.
Yeah.
But before we do that, a word from our amazing sponsors for this YouTube clip. We are currently at Maria01, which is the leading startup hub and community here in Helsinki, with over 250 startups here on the campus, over 2,000 members across both physically and digitally. You can join by applying, and most notably, they just opened up their applications for an accelerator program called Northern Light, where you can get help from the community, from founders, from investors, help you with market access into Nordics and the European countries. And most importantly, you can apply without being in Finland. So if you are early stage startup with some traction, maybe an MVP, you can apply abroad. But let me just be honest, the coolest part about all of this is that we are in a old hospital building right now.
Yeah, it's neat. Like, it's actually one of the cooler spaces I've seen for any sort of startup thing to exist in.
Oh man, you just wait. I'm going to take you to the tunnels later.
Okay.
If you make it out alive.
If I'm, yeah, this might be the last video. This might be the last I'm ever seen. So, great.
You don't know this yet, but this is blackmail material.
Yeah, great.
Okay, cool. So, let's talk some shit.
Yeah, I think, and my goal for this conversation. So I write a lot. My goal for this conversation is for us to like crystallize a lot of the concepts. I'm super curious about how you have been applying a lot of the stuff that you've seen from that I've created, a lot of the theories and whatnot. And so I want to learn from you, and I want to try to provide a resource that anybody who's kind of followed my stuff can like look at and say, okay, cool, this is a step deeper than what I've seen elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay, so that's maybe a good starting point, because as I've been trying to apply a lot of your theories and concepts in practice. In fact, I've kind of made it the basis of my whole go-to-market engineering thesis.
Love it.
Because it just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I know you talk about this as like 0 to 1, and then afterwards something else happens, but really it just fits very nicely into any stage you're in.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about what are the things we're doing to get customers and retain customers.
And how do we do that repeatedly? And how do we think about it? How do right like and so
course correct. What happens when you get like your first sales hire? What happens when there's 15 of them? What happens when there's a handover from PDR to AE? It still like boils down to who are we selling to that has demand?
Yeah.
Which I think is a good segue to. I want to essentially play back some of your theories.
Cool.
And you correct me if
love it.
Let's hear it. Okay, so. I think the main thing that you talk about that I very much agree with is you need to think about startups and go-to-market in terms of demand and supply. Yeah?
Yep.
Makes sense.
High level,
And there's a lot of talk about demand being something you can generate, you can build, etc. But you and I agree that you can only find demand. Like demand is something that somebody, a buyer, especially in the B2B context, has at some point in time. And the way I like to describe demand to whoever I'm working with is it's essentially a project or to-do that's unavoidable, that's on a buyer's plate, either today, tomorrow, yesterday, or very soon. And they need to make it happen, whether they buy a tool or not, whether the alternatives are good or not. And what we are offering, not like a product or our service, we are offering a plan how to make that project go away or just be a lot less painful. Is that?
Rough. I think roughly there. Do you want to keep expanding on that, or do we want to focus there?
We can stop here for a moment because I think this is where I've done the most variations on how to explain it. Like, I think initially when I read your stuff, it was a project. Right. That hasn't really gone down like as something that is understood immediately or like internalized more. Like so, I usually have to re-explain it a few times. Like it's not like a pain you're experiencing. It's not a value prop you can buy or painkiller vitamin. It's not even it's not a job to be done.
Right.
like that you would see on a job ad, right?
Right.
It's more like a thing I need to do when I go to work, or I need to make my team do
Right.
or achieve. So something like board meetings coming up. Somebody needs to prepare a report.
Yep.
That's going to happen regardless of whatever tools you have, whether your data is in order. Somebody's going to have to sit down, pull it together, make some numbers, deliver it.
Yep.
And that happens, that demand for doing that project happens like end of year before the first board meetings. So that's like a clear scenario.
Yep.
It's not like that person's job description includes make board reports, which it probably does actually.
It could, yeah.
But it's not a job that happens every week.
Right.
So that's kind of like how I go about it. It is something you need to do either today, tomorrow, very soon. You don't have an option of not doing it.
Yeah.
Like you can delegate it, but it's still being done.
Yes.
And during that time, you may or may not have demand for something I'm peddling, you're peddling.
Right.
And then I have to essentially match like what I'm offering to this.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I think like let's jump out and like explain what's so people will like hear this and they will nod.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, cool, yeah, that makes sense. And then we'll just go back and do dumb shit. And so we have to like, I think the default way of thinking here is, hey, I have a product.
Yeah.
I want to go sell my product.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to poke you a bunch of times and say, hey, don't you want this product? Like,
Yeah.
don't. And what we usually don't have a way of thinking of or about is like, why does somebody buy a product? What causes somebody to buy a product? Why are they open to it? Why do some startups grow super fast? And then why is nobody responding to my messaging? And then why do I have really uncomfortable sales calls? Or sales calls that go well and people just ghost me afterwards. And so in order to have a way of thinking about why people buy things, we have to have this idea of demand. And by default, we just have to assume nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about my product. Nobody cares about anything. The default state is indifference.
Yeah.
Demand is a way of saying, in what situation, or in your words, scenario, is a person not indifferent?
Yeah.
Would they be, instead of, they would generally be weird to buy our product?
Yeah.
When's a case when they would be weird not to buy our product?
Exactly.
And so if we assume, okay, so they have a bunch of stuff that they do on a given day, right? Imagine, like I envision their calendar, right? I'm just like, okay, what do they do in this block? What are they doing in that block? Okay, assume they have a pretty full calendar. If they have a full calendar that's totally irrelevant to us, it would be insane if they bought from us.
Yeah.
It would just be super weird. Like, you know what? I was working on something totally irrelevant, but I got your email, and yeah, I'm gonna just drop everything to buy your product. Like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I'll give you like a practical example of my own buying. Like I've bought this tool, Find Email, 3 times over the course of few years.
Yeah.
It's always been at a time where I needed to do more outbound.
Yep.
So I needed to map a lot more LinkedIn profiles to email addresses.
Yeah.
And every single time when I was about to embark on that project, I was like, okay, look at my alternatives, scrape it myself, do something else, or just go to this tool I know. So I bought it, run my campaign, then churned at some point.
Yep.
So I think the other thing we definitely want to talk about is the demand is bound to a time. Yeah. So it's like, just because I have demand for, I don't know, a outbound tool, doesn't mean I have a demand for it all of the time.
Right.
So.
Right, and I think like that's an interesting case too of your sales cycle. In that situation, your sales cycle was, I don't know, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. But if they reach out to you at any other point in time, your sales cycle is going to be variable of time, like block of time until that scenario, plus 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is your sales. And I think that's actually, I've looked at a bunch of data on sales cycle lengths. And it's data is like all over the place.
Yeah.
But when you say, oh wait, what's the scenario? What's the situation in which somebody has demand? It's usually like somewhere between 30 minutes and like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it's just the variability is all about the amount of time until
Yeah.
that situation, that scenario happens.
And
for
we can't
somebody.
influence that.
I mean, it's best to operate as if you can't influence that. You may
exactly.
be able to slightly influence it here on the margins, but in general, in the early stage especially, you are looking for people who buy without needing convincing, buy without needing education. They just buy, and when you show up, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, weird coincidence here.
Yeah.
I need that right now.
Did you read my mind?
And actually, what I found is, you know you're on the right track in a sales call if you're like, hey, this is what I typically hear from people. Tell me if this resonates. And they're like, wait, were you in our meeting? Like, how do you know
So
this?
that's the scenario that you have to paint. Yeah.
Yes.
I think just like closing on this before moving on to the specifics of demand. Like I think the comforting thought here in like knowing demand is you find, and it's situational, is when people tell you no, it's fine.
Yes.
Then at least you're on the radar for next time.
Yes.
But then you've kind of like confirmed whether somebody has demand right now. And I think we all get very hung up on like a million follow-ups and ways to nurture leads, et cetera. But like if you know that this buyer doesn't have demand right now, assuming that they fully understood what you're
What
peddling,
you were talking about,
which we'll talk about separately, then it's fine. You move on to the next one because you're not going to be able to influence them to change their mental to-dos. Like,
right. I think that's actually probably the most important thing that this concept of demand gives you, gives me, gives everybody who like actually understands it, is this sense of freedom of like, oh, I'm not going to convince somebody who doesn't have this on their to-do list to put it on their to-do list and buy from us. Great.
Don't have to be a sleazy salesperson anymore.
I'm not pushing things onto you. I'm not going to convince you of anything. And so all I have to do, that changes basically the entire physics of everything downstream in your business. It's like the way I structure sales conversations, the way I schedule sales conversations, what I even think about as a sales conversation, all of that changes when you just accept that they will or won't have demand. It's what's on their to-do list, and it's totally right. Like you don't control that. If it's on their to-do list, and that's what's going to cause them to buy.
Yeah. So how do we put this into a little, almost like a bullet point framework? But like, why is this useful to know when you're a founder or early stage go-to-market or any go-to-market person? Like, how do you incorporate that into your day-to-day? Like, you know that demand is situational. You can't influence it necessarily. All you can do is have conversations.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for us in practice?
Yeah, I mean, in practice, it means have a hypothesis of who has demand.
Yeah.
Test it by talking to people and seeing if you think they have demand, they would be weird not to buy your product.
Yeah.
And so talk to those people. If you figure that out, everything else about your business works and is like quite easy.
And if they don't even talk to you, then you know that either they don't have demand or they just didn't understand what the hell you're peddling.
Yes, that is a separate thing. But I think the core thing is that demand is what generates a business.
Yeah.
And so you have to just like, if you focus on demand, everything else can work out. If you think that people are going to want your product or that you're going to convince people to want your product, then what you're going to find is it's just going to be painful.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know why it's not working.
If I had to think about it through like the go-to-market engineering list, to me that more or less means that you build up your lists or audiences big enough, you make small enough campaigns to run your messaging, to try to have conversations. And especially if you don't know what you're peddling, as in you can't build a direct offer, then your messages are more like, can I talk to you about this topic?
Yep.
If nobody talks to you about this topic, you gotta pivot the topic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that in practice just means send a steady flow of messages out, not like massive, like don't waste your entire audience on this one hypothesis.
Right.
Like I've personally found it quite useful to just say like we need to send one scenario, one message to 100 people. If there's no replies, then either we're just not delivering the messages, which is a separate technical issue. But more likely it's just doesn't make sense. It's not urgent. It's not on anyone's radar, or simply they didn't understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Like you've probably received emails like, hey, I will help you drive revenue.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't know.
So you're doing 100. So you send out 100 messages as a test.
Oh, yeah.
What do you see? What's a good response rate? What are you looking for?
Replies to begin with. Like if you think about that, the industry, the current benchmark is if you get 5% reply rate, that's fucking fantastic.
Okay. So basically, you send 100, and you're looking for 5 replies. Ideally, a couple of those are like, yeah, sure, I'll meet with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can send out 100 messages, what, like in a day, 2 days? Like how do you typically do? Okay.
Yeah, easy.
Okay.
You can do it manually, or you can use one of these tools that will like do 15 a day, either like whatever channel you're working on.
Right.
Email, I think is fine, is easiest. Then you have LinkedIn, obviously.
Right.
Personally, I don't really separate the channels in my head, because at the end of the day, it's just the same, you're sending a message to a person.
Yeah.
So I don't really care if it's LinkedIn or email. I just say do both, because it's the same message. You're testing the message, you're not testing the channel.
Right.
But hey, should we briefly talk about what are the components of demand?
Yeah, sure.
So
the pull framework?
Yeah, the pull framework, because that's what I also use to construct the messages.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to play it back to you.
Please.
It's great that you've somehow found an acronym that really nicely fits into this whole demand and supply.
But yeah, fun. Can I give you a fun story about this first?
Yeah.
So my book was due to the publisher on a Friday. On a Sunday, a friend had sent me a text, and he was like, you should probably come up with like an acronym, like PULL or something like that. Could you come up with an acronym like that? Hey, here's a couple ideas. And he's an author, and so, he has a good book. And I was like, oh, you idiot! You're so right about that. And so I had to rewrite the book.
The entire book.
The entire book from Sunday to Friday.
Nice.
And so that's where the pull framework comes from.
Perfect. Well, shout out to whoever came up with the
Gorick, you jerk.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
But hey,
great guy.
Now you're across the continent talking about the same acronym.
Yeah. It's a great acronym. So it's a very useful. I've actually found. So I'm bootstrapping a startup as well. And I've found that the pull framework is also, it's useful for a hypothesis, and it's useful as a diagnostic of like, why isn't this working? Like, what's going on here? And so anyway, you give me your explanation, and we'll go from there.
Now that we've hyped up this, this framework, so the anticlimactic description of it is, pull simply means a buyer has a project that's unavoidable, the alternatives suck, and is looked, like they're lacking in any like a tool or way to do it.
Yep.
That's also how I kind of describe it. I think on its own, it's been also one of these head nodding moments, but then how do you put it into practice?
Yep.
So I usually pair it with a messaging exercise. Like, can we compose a message that makes sense in here? Like, and this is maybe where we can talk about the whole scenario piece. Because I think the different word I've used to describe a lot of things is not like not the case study that you use, which is, the project that somebody wants to do is successful, gets praised, doesn't get fired, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But like a scenario instead. And scenario is very much the project that somebody has to do.
Right.
Like the most recent example that I've been working on is this company, product suits very well into businesses that have a steady flow of inbound leads, but primarily a sales-led pipeline,
Okay.
So the message that I wrote was more like, hey, are you experiencing this type of situation? Steady flow of inbound leads. You have to research every single one of them manually, then decide whether to spend more time on them or not. If yes, no, actually, in addition to that, I'd say, hey, according to the internet, your website has a steady flow of traffic, so I'm assuming you might have something useful, relevant to say here. We solve this problem by automatically, researching every lead that comes through, so that you don't have to. Can we talk? And that's kind of like then putting into this project framework, the pull framework, which is the project is daily, research every inbound lead. Understand whether they're good or not. It's unavoidable because you probably have sales targets and you don't want to leave leads hanging. And even if it looks like shit, you're still gonna look through. The alternatives are buy some expensive tools, switch CRMs completely or whatever. And then where you're lacking is that you have to open every single lead manually, or even copy paste stuff in and out of ChatGPT. And whereas here I'm saying you can just plug in your website form and it does the whole thing, and then you'll just get a nice little record in your CRM saying good lead, bad lead, good lead.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how I've used the pull framework.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Let me comment on that from a couple different ways. Like, first thing is just in general to think about the pull framework. Pull framework is a way to articulate when somebody would be weird not to buy your product.
Yeah.
Given that basically everybody, basically all of the time, would be weird to buy your product,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so when the pull, if you get the pull framework right, you're articulating this person, this situation, this scenario. When they hear from us, they're like, "Holy cow! This is actually. Have you been listening in on our meetings? Like, what's going on?" That's exactly how I'm thinking, right? And then and so what it's articulating is, somebody is trying to accomplish something, but they are blocked by their current options.
Yeah.
And when we show up, we unblock them so they can make progress, and it's almost like a kind of spring bouncing.
But that's the ideal utopian scenario and the $1 billion question, and probably also the reason why this whole go-to-market signals industry is booming,
Right.
or at least talked about right now, is how do we know when it would be weird not to buy without talking to you? Like, because we obviously have to build a list, you have to reach out to people, and it's like one out of a couple of hundred will be like, have you been listening into our convo?
Yeah, and that's where you start. But the goal is when someone says that, you're like, okay, tell me more. What's been going right? Like when you're having conversations with people, or when you have people who've bought really fast.
Yeah.
What I've found is that we actually don't understand why they do that, and so it's a very straightforward task to be like, okay, cool. You just bought, like, our normal sales cycle is 12 months, and you bought in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Could we talk about what the heck was going on in your world there? And from that, you can kind of reverse engineer what was their situation. Use that, who were they? What was going on in their world? What was on their to-do list? What had just happened to them a week before that caused them to say, okay, today I need to do X.
Yeah.
I've looked, they're in that situation where they're pushing, when they're like, listen, we have so many inbound leads, I can't get to them anymore. And I've just I've tried to come up with my own like ChatGPT workflow, it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this, and then you show up then and they buy right away. And like, you reverse engineer everything from that. And you say, okay, cool. I had my target list before. I'm actually going to change my target list slightly so that instead of 1 in 500 people that I reach out to saying, well, this is super relevant, and 499 saying this, right?
Yeah.
You want to have closer and closer to 500 out of 500 who are perfect fits for you because you know they have demand.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because, it sounds easy on paper. Like, just if somebody buys really quickly from you, go and fucking talk to them and be like, why did you buy?
Yes.
And I've done this exercise. It's like coming into a gig where there is customers. I go and talk to the customers, like why were you buying?
Yeah.
A lot of the time, it gets, I wouldn't say hard, but like you have to navigate through even the customers giving you the value props back.
Yes.
Like it's generally a weird question to ask. Like, what were you doing the moment before you decided to buy? And it's hard to get an answer.
Yeah, Bob Moesta, the guy behind Jobs to Be Done, has a really, really good way. So if you ask anybody, why did you buy this?
Yeah.
What they will say to you, they'll justify why they wanted the product.
Yeah.
Which is not useful to you. Because they're like, well, because it did X. It's like, okay, cool. I don't. What they're doing is they're talking about the supply side.
Yeah.
We want to get them onto the demand side, which is not about the product at all. It's about the sequence of events leading up to that moment. And so instead of saying, why did you buy? Say, okay, cool. Let's forget about our product for a second. You talk about the situation you were in when you bought. When you bought, what had happened the day before and the day before that? And maybe just like walk us through.
Yeah.
Like walk me through what was going on that made this relevant to you.
Yeah.
And if you ask those kinds of questions, you start to see things that look more like things that are pushing a project from backlog to number one priority, It's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I know what causes that now.
I guess if we take this like inbound leads
Yeah.
example, there's plenty companies that are fast growing, are sales led, but also have either inbound or self-service flow.
Yep.
So I guess you could then adjust your target list to look at like, here's fast growing early stage companies that clearly have both,
Yep.
like a salesperson, but also some inbound flows, and then just focus on them.
Yeah, and it could be, right, like, and I'm just spitballing here,
Yeah.
but it could be that the thing that causes this project to be on their to-do list from backlog onto like number one priority is if their inbound traffic goes from here to here.
Yeah. So now we're talking about signals, aren't we?
Yes.
Growth percentage over time.
Right,
Yeah.
it could be, everything else is constant, but we've figured out inbound, and now da needs to happen, right? And like this is just painting a potential scenario of like, I'm just thinking in my mind, okay, most projects exist on a backlog and we never get to them. What forces a project onto the to-do list right now?
Yeah. What can you say to someone that makes them think, this is the project I'm about to push into my priority list?
Yeah, the messaging there could basically be, hey, I saw your traffic just went 200, like
2x.
20x to 2x, whatever, to your website. I imagine you're getting a ton more leads than before and are trying to figure out I've seen this a bunch of times. Would you be open to chat?
Yeah.
Right, like
Yeah.
that's all you need to do in a message. Sales calls.
Sales calls, right. So let's assume that we've now figured out all the super easy stuff, like who should we be talking to, iterated on that. We figured out how to start the conversations with magical messaging and magical signals that we can pull from the internet using AI and whatnot. Now we're in a sales call. What the fuck do we do?
Yeah, so going back to the absolute basics here. Remember, you're not going to convince them of anything.
Right.
They have something on their to-do list which is going to cause them to buy from you.
Which is why they took the call.
Which is why they took the call, right? And so at the beginning of a call, so I think of a call has basically two components. There is the demand component, and guess what else?
Supply?
Supply component.
No way.
Yeah, there we go. And so the demand component of a call is you're just filling out their pull framework.
Yeah.
That's the goal of that part.
Right.
And so you can do that in a variety of different ways, but the basic way is to start the call, and this is going to be the dumbest thing you've ever heard, but it actually is really helpful. Say, thanks for taking the time today. You're a busy person. Why are you on this call? Like, why did you take the call? What are you hoping to get out of it?
Yeah.
And usually what will happen, so that is a required thing. You have to do that every single call, even if it feels uncomfortable.
I've done that. It's a good way to start.
Phenomenally useful. Because what they might say, I have no idea why I'm on this call.
Yeah. Somebody
like,
told me to come to this.
Somebody told me to come to this call. I have no idea what you do. I don't know. I've been on back-to-backs. I have no idea. Please.
That's the best sales call ever.
Right, and that, but at least you know something there. On the other side, what a lot of people will come and say, yeah, you sent me some sort of a message. I actually was just struggling with this thing, and basically what they start to do is they start to fill out their pull framework for you. And then the rest of the demand part of the call is just filling out the rest of their pull framework, which is what are they trying, how do they describe the project on their to-do list? Why is it unavoidable right now? What have they looked into, and why aren't those things good enough for them? You can do that just with questions like me having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And you can have some slides as well.
Unless you use a very rigid MEDIC BANT framework where you're just filling out your supply side.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah.
Well,
so that's what
are useful, but
yeah, so you can think of there's like, I have to understand the shape of your need before I can give you a proctology exam on will you buy this?
Yeah.
Right? Like what I've, I remember getting somebody onto a call and asking the BANT framework, which is budget, authority, need, timing.
Yeah.
Start with budget, and they're like, why the fuck are we talking? Like, why did you ask me my budget? You don't know who I am yet.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Are you the budget holder?
Right. Are you the budget holder? And they're like, okay, weird way to start a conversation with another human being. You just don't do that.
It's like when some hotshot influencers come to you and say, "How many followers do you have?" "Oh, under 50. I don't want to fucking talk to you."
Yeah. It's like I've never had that happen because no influencer wants to talk to me. But that's a separate problem. That's my dream.
Anyway.
But yeah, so we're talking demand part of the call.
Yeah.
Fill out their pull framework. Ask them, why'd you come here? Why are we on this call? They'll usually fill out part of it, and your job is just to fill out the rest. Yeah. You might have a slide you show them where if they're not being, like if they're just going on some random diatribe about something else, you're like, okay, let me bring this back on track. Yeah. Here are the scenarios, here's the situations when I'm talking to other people. Does this at all resonate with you?
I guess best case scenario, they start bombarding you with questions.
Best case scenario is they say, hey, we have just seen, so we're going to just use that inbound example again. We've just seen our inbound ramp up a ton, and we are taking a bunch of bad meetings, and we're trying to fix that. We are trying, and we've looked into ChatGPT, we've looked into fancy workflow tool, and those didn't work for us because they were just too much work for us to set up and figure out and debug.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. At that point, what you have is you have a basically complete pull framework. The demand part of the call is essentially done. You just play that back to them and say, okay, let me make sure I understand this. Cool. That's what your demand is. The demand part of the call is a checkbox. Like you've checked that part off. Now you've earned the right to move to the supply side where you describe how you fit in that situation.
And I guess this is the part where a lot of the pitfalls happen, where you say, very cool, let me show you our tool, let me walk you through every single screen that we have, and not start with the thing that they're actually interested in.
Yeah, I mean, like, so my rough estimate is that 90% of a sales call is wasted time, a default.
Yeah, okay.
By default, 90% is wasted because what we do is we show up and ask random ass questions.
Right.
So where we don't figure out what their pull is, we learn a lot of interesting things about their organization, but we don't figure out what are they trying to accomplish and in what ways are they blocked.
Yeah.
And then we go through a long, basically demo training session on our product that actually convinces them not to buy. And often between those two, we're taught to have some sort of a presentation we've pulled together that educates them on the problem and the size of the problem and evangelizes all of this to them. And they're just like, what am I doing here? And so what you do, the goal is to show the least amount of product and to say the fewest amount of words on the supply side.
For them to believe that if I go with this, my problem goes away.
Yeah, I'm trying to accomplish this. I am blocked because of this. And then you say, okay, cool. We offer an AI native CRM tool that like qualifies leads for you with a very high quality bar that just plugs in one click.
Yeah.
I'll pause there. You might have a slide that says that exact same thing and maybe shows a graphic. I'll pause there. Does that sound like it fits what you need?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, yeah, cool, that's that. And you actually don't necessarily need to even do a demo. Like I went 0 to 4 million ARR. We never demoed a product.
See,
there was no
it can
demo.
Be done.
A friend of mine just went 0 to 250K ARR, and he didn't even have a product. He just showed a report that they would be getting every 2 weeks.
Right.
And that was it. That was all they needed. It fit what they were trying to accomplish.
Because nobody cares about your product. They just want the outcome. Kind of like the board example where if you need to put this thing together, you probably don't care how you're going to do it. You just see, this is the outcome. Okay, I can configure the variables, make it so it's like relevant and correct, but I get the report.
Yeah, I don't care if you've trained rats in the background to do it. I don't care. I just need to accomplish. I have this thing that I'm trying to do.
You know, now that we're talking about this, like there is one thing I noticed / remember, like from a lot of sales calls, and that's where the person that has demand starts like focusing on elements, parts of the product, the solution that you're not demoing or you're not like selling. Yeah. And I think that's probably should be like, at least like a wake up call within the demo call where it's like, hey, maybe if they're really focusing on this random ass feature that they probably imagine that it solves their problem.
Right.
But if I go like, oh, but that's just a little feature. Let me talk to you about this big stuff.
Yeah.
Then it's probably not relevant to them. I lose them.
Yep.
But then if I just ask like, okay, why are you focusing on this? What do you think you can achieve with this? I guess that's where you can uncover more bits of the like demand side.
Yeah. If you start your demo with like, here's why we built this product, you're already headed in the totally wrong direction, and or if you start and say, so this is the dashboard, right? You're already fucked. You're already done, right?
Here's the login page.
Here's here's the settings. So here's how you set this up, right? Like you're just already lost.
Yeah.
And you're like, my goal is to show one screen at most.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you said you're trying to do X. This is how it works through here. You just press this button.
Yeah.
Or it just works automatically in the background, and here's the output that you get.
Okay, $1 billion question then.
Yep.
Is, assume they tell us all these things that are clearly like signs of demand. How can we know, or at least figure out whether they're telling the truth, as in like, this is really something they want to solve, pay for, versus they're just being nice to you because you're a unfortunate founder in a very tough market trying to do some wacky shit and they just want to help you.
Yeah, so what I've found is if they are talking about themselves, kind of selfishly right now,
Right.
versus like, oh, yesterday I was in a meeting where I was tasked to figure this out and to solve this. Right, that's me, selfish reason,
which is
thing
what
on
we
my
want.
to-do list. That is a good sign.
Yeah.
If you hear things like, oh wow, this is awesome. I can see how the industry would benefit. I'm talking about not me, not now, that's in the future, or the company has been talking about. This is a stated problem for the company. Again, that's not me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not selfish, it's not...
Even if it's you, but near future. It's like, oh, if this had this kind of feature, I would totally want to buy. It's like, no.
Yeah. It's me, now, that's the signal. And then throughout the conversation, okay, I'm gonna pause, I'm gonna recap demand. Do I have that right? Is that your demand? You're trying to accomplish. Okay, here's our supply. Does that fit what you are trying to accomplish? Is it worth us taking a next step here, given this, right? And so my goal goes from I'm trying to convince you to want this,
to confirm whether you...
I'm not trying to convince you to want this anymore. That's not what I'm trying. I'm actually trying to, like, disqualify you. I'm trying. My default assumption is you don't want this.
Yeah.
Because it would be weird if anybody wanted software. And so what I'm trying to like. And so my position on a call is just like, I don't know if you have demand. You tell me.
Yeah.
And that way I don't have happy ears either.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's either demand now or never. Yeah. Right. So, how about we talk about the last few things we've got on there?
Yeah.
There's obviously the whole thing about once you've sold someone, you have to deliver your promises.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is not a lot of people's problems. Like at that point, when you have a working go-to-market machine, you get clients, you have to retain them. You can typically, in my experience, throw people at the problem. Right? But there's obviously lots of like things we could talk about here. But since we are gonna get kicked out soon enough,
cool.
how about we talk about the more interesting thing? Let's you wanted to zoom out, talk about the whole framework, and see how this all maps to it.
Yeah, so what we've been doing throughout this conversation, we've basically been picking different points of the frameworks to like double click on.
Yeah.
And so now that we've done that, I want to zoom out and give the overall view of all the frameworks and how they work. So basically two core frameworks. There's the case study and there's the case study factory.
Right.
A case study is exactly what you think it is, right? It's the thing that's on your website, and it's where customer was in this scenario, they were in this situation, they were trying to accomplish this, they were blocked, we showed up, they were unblocked, and they accomplished this, right? That's one case study.
This is the thing I talk about as a scenario, right?
Yes, yeah. That's basically the demand side of a case study. It's like what's causing the case study to be relevant, what's going on there. And so, okay, the case study is the foundational building block of a startup. Our startup just exists to find people who have demand, deliver supply so that we generate a case study. as a result. We just want to repeat a single case study. A startup is essentially a factory we build to repeat case studies.
Right.
And so we can think of a startup as a case study factory with 3 steps. There's the pipeline step, which we've been focused a lot on because everyone focuses a lot on this, right? It's how do we get anybody to talk to us? How do we get the right people to talk to us? People who likely have demand, right? Then there's the sales step, which is how do we convert people who are talking to us into customers? Then there's the delivery step, which is how do we take people who are customers and make them weird to churn?
Right.
How do we, and so if we zoom out on all of this, everything we've been talking about is about assembling the case study and assembling the case study factory.
Right.
And our job is just to do both of those things and put volume through it.
Exactly. Once we know that the components work, you can increase volume. But until you have a working method, like the volume should be good enough so that you can iterate, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think of it as I want to have 5 to 10 calls per week to test
Where
it's broken.
Yeah.
Where the factory is currently broken, where the case study is currently broken. And I find that by listening back to the sales calls and say, okay, did they have demand? Did they not? Why? What's going on here? Did I say something that caused them to, like ask random questions, have weird expectations that caused them to eventually churn or cause them to ghost me or whatever?
When they churn, do they tell you why?
Right. And so so we are just assembling the case study and the case study factory, putting volume through it to figure out, to basically debug it. And that is what a startup is.
Yeah. It's funny what you're describing in the go-to-market industry lingo is typically known as the go-to-market growth engine.
Yes.
Which is effectively a set of systems processes that a lot of times are operated by ops teams, which goes from account building and distribution down to BDRs, AEs, CSMs, all the way to the end.
Totally.
So this is why I like the framework so much, because if you just put it into the typical scenario of a B2B SaaS company, it's kind of fits nicely. We just use a lot of more dumbed down terms, which I also really like.
Yeah, so let me make the case for using the concept of the factory versus the other. So the other things you'll hear a go-to-market engine, and then you'll hear funnel. Right. And I think those terms are fine to be descriptive terms, but when you use the concept of the factory, you can actually apply a century of manufacturing thinking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thinking on how do you make a factory improve. There's very little thinking on how does a funnel improve, right? Because why would you think about that? That's a weird thing to think about. And so if you think about it as a factory, you can look at what are the constraints to growth in a factory. What are the constraints to output of the factory? And that helps you focus on where's the bottleneck, where do we double down? Right. And so factory thinking is way better than engine, because what am I? It's just a cool word.
Yeah, I guess. No, I agree with you, first of all. And then second of all, once you put actual people behind it, it's not enough that one leader understands this. Then you have a team of people also need to understand it.
Yes.
It usually has to then map into some kind of diagram of approximately how your systems behave.
Yep.
Because people, while the actions are human, send message, talk, have a call, show a demo, fix a bug, blah, 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 send invoices, still the way we operate is through a set of tools where data flows. But I like it. I like to think of it as a blueprint, schematic, whatever.
Yes.
Okie dokie. Anything to add? Because I think we're about to be kicked out.
No, that's all I got.
All right, any last piece of advice?
Literally just focus on demand. If you figure out demand can generate everything else about your business. If you don't focus on demand, everything will be confusing.
Also, Rob is offering a course for finding demand, costs $2 million, and only 30 people can go. And you can buy into the hype.
Yeah, that's news to me, but hey.
Just like your book.
Yeah, the book, who knows, whatever.
All right, man. Next up, I'm going to go throw you into the sea.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you.
Richard, how old are you?
I am 34 years old.
As of when?
As of today?
Today?
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Happy
Birthday
birthday
to... No, wait, I'm tomorrow, 35.
Tomorrow.
35.
Okay, tomorrow. Tomorrow. So we do it anyway.
Yeah.
Early. No, for you. You stay quiet.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Happy birthday to you.
Old as fuck.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Blow the candle. There you
Nice.
go.
Thank you for everything, man.
Thank you for being a great friend.
Hey, likewise.
Glad to be here. Pleasure to meet you, Rob. Hope you enjoy the stay. And gotta say, Richard, you've always been the prototype for like GTM stuff in my head. So when it came to like marketing stuff and you need a benchmark, in my head it's been
I appreciate that. Thank you.
this guy as a human. And if there would have been one thing, and I'd like to hear a continued discussion on later on, which you can film anywhere, is like, how do you think the factor thinking in the age of AI? So you were saying like the people, right? So like, where do you need the actual people? That's the question I had left, right?
Well, my answer to this is very simple.
Like, we don't need to do this on camera. We can start like we can have this discussion.
Yeah.
It becomes like something for you to think about. Like, how do you? Because ultimately, the argument is somebody who's like deep in AI will be like, we don't need these people anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So how does the AI part fit into the?
Fits everywhere.
Please grab some food.
Yeah. Love it.
Somebody already
awesome.
checked if this is empty. Somebody open door.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go get fucked. No, just kidding.